Guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent to me from a subscriber that tells his account of what happened to a guy he was friends with when he was in the military, and how this guy got royally screwed over by his wife when he was overseas in Iraq, and he re-enlisted and got his re-enlistment bonus, and then what happened to him with the wife, the money, his kids, the whole 9 yards. And it's yet another example of why I tell you guys, number one, I tell you don't get married, but especially for young guys that are going to go into the military or presently are in the military and have girlfriends and think it's a good idea to get married because, hey, that's what everybody else does. I'm warning you now, it's a bad idea. And I've done these videos before, other ones like this, and there's been thousands of comments from guys all over the country that have told their stories about what happened to them, guys they knew. So I want to help you guys avoid all this misery and bullshit. Now, this guy is telling the story what he witnessed to a friend of his. Now, oftentimes when somebody tells a story about what happened to a friend, in actuality, it's what really happened to them. But I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, and that he really is telling about what he witnessed, what happened to his friend. Again, as a warning to help any guys out there that are thinking about making this mistake. So it starts off, "Hey SSM, I first off want to start by saying I enjoy your message and your content. Thank you. Enough of that. I want to tell you a story about an incident I witnessed in the military involving a gold-digging dependopotamus." That's a clever one. "This story does not involve me, but is merely my witness account to a soldier's utter financial and personal destruction. I would like this man's experience serve as a lesson to both aspiring and current troops as to why marriage is an absolutely stupid idea. I'll never forget this story. The year was 2009. I was 20 years old, and we were on the deployment to Iraq for 15 months. I met this soldier prior to the tour, and he was an older gentleman. He was in his mid-30s. I'll refer to him as H. H had been in the unit for almost 2 years and was on a 3-year enlistment contract. He came up on his 2-year mark about 10 months into the deployment, and so he was up for re-enlistment. When a soldier has 1 year or less left on their enlistment contract, that's when the retention NCOs come crawling. H and his wife had been married for about 10 years. They had 2 children, and he had decided he wanted to be all he can be and all that good stuff. As he was coming up on re-enlistment window, he and his wife began discussing the possibilities. He could ETS, end time of service, or he could re-up and aim for retirement. He told me after months of discussion, they agreed upon the latter option. So he's about out, and he wants to do it one more time, get a big payday and all that, and the wife, who obviously he's away from a lot of the time, agreed to this. Okay. During the course of the deployment, H and his wife managed to save about $15,000 from the hazard and combat pay, separation pay, housing, and subsistence allowances, etc. She also had a job, but we would soon discover she had more. Re-enlistment day came, and the first sergeant came and woke up my platoon to witness the ceremony. He says in parentheses, I remember because I was pissed at being disturbed after we had been conducting night ops. So he signed the contract, swore his oath, and there it was. He was locked in for another 4 years. Later, after I was arrested, I spoke with him while he was smoking a cigarette to ask about his re-enlistment terms, incentives, and bonus. His bonus was $35,000. If I recall correctly, conventionally, when a troop receives their bonus, they're paid in installments on the soldier's initial enlistment. Furthermore, it's obviously taxed. However, H decided to re-enlist while on an overseas tour so he could receive the entirety of the bonus in one lump sum, tax-free. That's pretty nice. Get paid all up front, tax-free. That's great if things are going well with the family, but as you're about to find out with his missus, it worked out well in her favor. The retention NCO said it wouldn't be long until he received his money. He also got to select a duty station and a few other perks. I was generally excited for him, and he was happy with the money that he and his wife had saved up. Well, so far so good. Well, a few days to maybe a week later, I'm walking back in from a mission, and I encountered him smoking at the burn pit and asked him if he'd received his money yet. He gave me a death stare, and I decided it was best for me to move along. He looked furious and was completely 180 than he was the last time we spoke about the money. I chose to leave him alone. Within the next day or so, word began to spread that while my platoon was out in patrol, he was in the computer room, and all of a sudden he had a major outburst. He was checking his bank account and noticed that it was zeroed out. He had received the money a day or so prior and was logged on to USAA to check his account and enjoy the sight of his account balance. He immediately logged up to call his wife and found out what happened, but was unable to reach her. Imagine that. This guy signs up. He's told he's going to get his $35K tax-free because he's overseas in one big payment. He thinks everything's great with the wife back home. She's taking care of the kids. He logs in and sees his account is zero. Then he tries to call her and find out what's going on. And surprise, surprise, he can't reach her. Can you imagine that? And he's overseas. At any moment his number could be up. Real nice, huh? Continues. What happened was she had met a man at work and decided he was the love of her life, and decided that a further commitment to the Army wasn't something she wanted to deal with. How nice of her. She decided all this right before this guy decided to re-enlist and got the money. And she obviously helped convince the guy to re-enlist, so he's locked in and get that big bonus, and then she takes it. How nice. This guy's away, he's serving his country, and his life is on the line, and basically he takes care of all the bills and everything and gets these bonuses, and she's going to go hook up with some other dude, and that's the love of her life. Guys, this story, you hear in one form or another, this is the type of story you hear over and over again. It's an absolute disgrace, but it's unbelievable. So guys, you're young, you're in the military, and you got that girl, don't marry her. Look what can happen. She has right to your money, and you're going to find out it gets even worse for this poor guy. Goes on. So she terminated the lease to their apartment, packed up, took the kids, and went and moved in with her new love of her life. She emptied out the accounts and decided that she deserved the money. Deserved my ass. What the hell did she do? Yes, she was at home, and yes, she was raising the kids, okay, but still, his ass is on the line overseas. Any minute his number could be up, and she's going to just go take the money. It's horrible. There's a special place in hell for people like that. Continues on. I waited a few more days before I went to go ask him about it, and he confirmed the rumors. I continued talking to him for the rest of the deployment, but more often not. He said he felt sick. He was found in the latrines crying about how much he missed his children. Poor guy. To add insult to injury, Army regulars stated that H still had to pay a significant fraction of his paycheck to her at each pay period every month until the divorce was finalized. When she filed for divorce, she claimed to be a victim of spousal and child abuse and got a restraining order against him. So not only was he out of almost $50,000, he wasn't allowed to see his children. Unbelievable. God, this poor bastard. To make matters worse, when we returned from deployment, he was ineligible to be assigned a barracks room, and was unable to afford a place to live or a car for transportation. A short time after we returned, I moved duty stations and lost touch with him. I never heard from him again, nor did I ever hear about him again. As far as I know, he never got a justification for why all this had happened. This incident was a big reason why I never got married in the Army and never will. Very smart, bro. I have about a dozen of other stories about soldiers I know being married to gold diggers, but this one is probably the worst I ever heard about. Don't get married. To my brothers in the Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard, they always put the Coast Guard last. I urge you to reconsider any thoughts you have about holy matrimony. All the best. That's a shame. That poor guy. I mean, seriously. But there's different variations of this story, but happen all the time. But basically, it's the same common theme. The guy joins the military. He's deployed overseas or a different part of the country. There's distance between him and the wife. And it doesn't take very long at some point that she is hooking up with some other guy. And this whole thing that he said he'd been married to her for like 10 years. I have a very hard time believing that this is probably the first incident in 10 years, given all the different things I've heard about and read about with regards to this subject. I mean, come on here. But the fact is that 10 years this guy's been doing this, and she decides to openly bleeds him dry, doesn't even leave $1 in his account, takes it all, takes the kids, disconnects the phone, does all that stuff, and this guy doesn't know what's going on. And on top of that, he still has to keep contributing out of his paychecks to her until the divorce is finalized. And I bet you she probably stretched that out to get as much money as well. I mean, that's terrible. That's really a shame. But that's the type of thing that happens. And this is how things are in this world. This sense of entitlement that's going on. I mean, I think a few decades ago, at least 2 or 3 decades ago, I don't think this was nearly as common as it is today. Sure, it obviously happened. Obviously, but still, I have a hard time believing it happens as much as it does today. Because in this day and age, thanks to many, many factors, women believe that they are on top of a pedestal, deserve the world, and you get this type of shit, but it's amazing. But so the message to young guys out there, number one, don't get married, but also, especially if you're in the military, don't do it. I don't care how great your girlfriend is, because even if she is sweet, you're gonna be gone, and she's gonna be conversing with the other military wives been hanging around in the housing, and guess what? They're going to rub off on her. It's really a shame. Are there certain exceptions? Are there some that probably don't do that? Sure, of course. But this happens a lot. And again, I get stories like this all the time. I have other guys send me stories. I don't do them all because I want to obviously have variety in the things I do in this channel, but this is important to point out every so often to help young guys not make this mistake. So I appreciate this guy sharing this. Again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that it's about the guy he knew, not about himself. But regardless, I appreciate him sharing the story. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.